Need a reminder of the good in the world? How about ways that you can make a difference, all while following your passions? Then you've come to the right place. Here on Be the Good with Kate, I have the honor of speaking with people from across the globe and such a wide array of backgrounds, all with the common bond of following what lights them up while making the world a better place along the way. My name is Kate Chericello Tente, and I am so grateful you are here. If something in this episode resonates with you, please reach out. I absolutely love hearing from you. And if you're willing to spread the word, sharing these good news moments with others, a share on social, comment, review, or a text to a friend about Be the Good with Kate, all goes such a long way. Thank you. I've learned so much from all the guests on Be the Good with Kate over the years, and I hope you leave here with some nuggets that stay with you too. Here's to making the world a better place in any way, shape, or form. Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate. Today, I am introducing you to Molly Cupka, who is the founder of UpENDing Parkinson's. And I can't wait to hear more about this. She is determined to spread the addictive sport that is rock climbing throughout the Parkinson's community. She's also dedicated to funding research and sharing simple, everyday adaptations that can slow the progression of Parkinson's disease. Molly also works at sport rock climbing centers, and she attended UC Irvine, where she competed on the varsity swim team and fell in love with rock climbing. These days, Molly can be found hanging out with her husband and their kids, or doing any number of physical activities: running, climbing, hiking, mountain biking, ice baths. I am not adventurous enough for that one. Yoga, or any other challenge she can dream up. Actually, Molly, I'm not sure if I'm adventurous enough to go on some of those high mountains that I saw in the CBS Morning interview that you guys did. Just absolutely amazing. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you and learn a little bit more about you and teach you about upending Parkinson's.
Oh, thanks, Molly. Well, it's just really it's such a neat and unique thing that you're doing. So what I'd love to start with is kind of giving people a 101 in case any listener isn't familiar with either rock climbing or Parkinson's. So could you just give us a 101 on each of those topics, and then we'll dive into how you combine them?
Sure. Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disease, so it's progressive. So people tend to get it later in life. A lot of people think of it as like an older person disease, but it's not necessarily. There's a ton of people who have young onset Parkinson, which is defined a little differently depending on where you look it up. But essentially, it's like under 65, under 60, that age range. And it affects everything, a bunch of motor symptoms, non-motor symptoms. It's a movement disorder, so it gets harder and harder to move as it progresses, and that can show up as difficulty walking, balance, tremors, which people tend to associate with Parkinson's. Not everybody who has Parkinson's has a tremor or a visible tremor, but a good number of them do. And then there's like dystonia, which, your muscles can cramp. It can be very painful. It can affect sleep. And then a ton of non-motor symptoms too. It's the dopamine in your brain. So there's like depression, anxiety, dementia, just general brain fog, um, bathroom issues. I mean, the list goes on. It really affects everything in your body. It can. And it looks different for everybody. So everybody gets affected by it differently. And then rock climbing is a kind of up and coming sport. I feel that way, at least. I started it back in 2004, I think is when I started climbing. And not many people did it back then, and there weren't very many climbing gyms. And now it's just blown up. It's in the Olympics now. And so there's rock climbing gyms everywhere. And it feel like you meet people now and tell me rock climbing. They're like, oh yeah, I've tried that. And it wasn't that way before, but it's definitely picking up steam. And there's indoor rock climbing gyms where there's colored holds on a wall that are supposed to kind of mimic outdoor climbing. And you follow a specific color or route when you're climbing at an indoor wall. And then there's a ton of different colors all around the gym. And so you try and really stick to one. So it kind of uses your brain a little bit. It's like a puzzle figuring out how to get up using just those holds. And then outdoor climbing is obviously any rock outside, it's everywhere.
That part terrifies me, but I've done the indoor aspect. I feel like the indoor is just, there's much more of a control of if you fall, there's padding, there's all of this. You don't have the rock falling aspect that just seems to stay in my brain. But, I am a personal trainer in another half of life. And so I know how crucial exercise is, especially strength training. But now what I'm curious about is, how did you know that rock climbing would be a benefit to Parkinson's specifically? What is it about rock climbing that is extra beneficial to Parkinson's?
So I grew up swimming, as you mentioned, and I did other sports too, a bunch of sports. And when I got into rock climbing, I think I was really blown away by how much you had to use your brain when you climbed. It
Mm.
was a lot of, planning and having to figure out, okay, I need to put my foot there, my hand there. Like, how do I make my body do this? It's not like climbing a ladder. It's different. You're moving your body in ways you don't normally move it. And I was also blown away by how hard it was. I thought I was strong and good. And the first time I climbed, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not that good at all. It was a huge cardio workout and full body, and I'm using my brain. As people who climb would tell you, it's a very addictive sport. And so right away, I was like, oh, I love this sport. It's so neat. And then as I did it for years, and I was director of Sport Rock, as you mentioned, for a lot of years. And being there, it was neat to see the different groups of people it was helping. Um, Kids with autism, all sorts of stuff. We had adaptive climbing groups with tons of different populations of people, but not Parkinson's. And so when I first met the first person I worked with, John, I didn't know a ton about Parkinson's, to be honest. I didn't know that much, and it was proving to be really beneficial to him, and he opened up and shared a lot with me about Parkinson's. And so I started digging into a little bit. And since then, they've come out with like a prescription for Parkinson's, so to speak, for exercise. And exercise is the only thing that's proven to slow the progression of Parkinson's disease.
Wow.
So
Wow.
medication manages symptoms, but exercise can slow it. And so when the prescription they kind of give is, you need to do cardio, and you need to do balance, and mobility and strength training, and it's this wide variety of activities. And they're like, oh, you can go do yoga and then go weightlifting. And then I was like, or that's all in climbing. So it was really pretty eye-opening for me to be like, oh, climbing has all of this. It has a great community. Climbing is not like a normal gym. It's like a community. Everybody's cheering each other on. It's, you're hanging out with your friends. And then it's got the mental aspect of it on top of all of that. So it felt like, the perfect combination of everything.
Wow, that's fantastic. And so when you mentioned John, did he come to you as a client at the gym? Did you reach out to him? How did it start?
Yeah, he reached out to me
Okay.
asking if we could do lessons early in the morning before the gym opened or before it was crowded. Um, John tends to fall sometimes. I usually catch him, but
Oh.
we're talking walking here. On the wall, I always catch him. But yeah, so he wanted to come in earlier in the morning to avoid a crowd, and so I
Mm.
was like, yeah, sure, come in, let's try it. So that's
Nice.
how it started.
And how it grew. Wow. And now you are expanding to, is it 45 locations now?
Actually, we're at 50 now.
We are 50 now. Okay.
Yes, I'm doing about one a week, so we're expanding very quickly. I think around this time last year we had around 11, I think. And I just started it expanding really last January.
Okay, so we have to go on a tangent for a second. Let's say someone listening has a passion project in mind where they see a need and they want to expand, because that sounds very overwhelming. What did you do? What do your days look like? What advice? I don't know, answer something in there that you want to comment on.
So it's a lot. It's a lot. I wish I could open 100 locations tomorrow, but it's a process. So I'd say at first it was a little bit messy. I think the first gyms we opened, I would probably agree with. I'm like, oh, you just do, X, Y, and Z. But obviously, as you do more and more gyms, there's like an easier system for doing that. And we have so many volunteers. So every location that we have has a lead volunteer, and that person kind of takes the charge. And I'm like, here are the tools, and then they kind of run with it. We have a group in Maine right now. They're doing like a whole fundraising event for a whole month. It's huge. They're reaching out and getting like, sponsors and stuff. And people keep reaching out to me about it. And I'm like, this girl, Jen here is running this. It's like, I'm doing much other than supporting her where she needs it with ordering things and whatnot. But yeah, so it's been definitely a labor of love and tons of people helping out. I mean, we have uh, roughly, I want to say, 300 volunteers, maybe 400.
How do they find you, or how did you find them?
They find us on the website, and then we had the national news coverage, which you mentioned with CBS, and then the Today Show, and both of those, I think, just got the word out. So
Wow.
people reached out, and a lot of climbers are similar, I'd say, to me, in that they're passionate about climbing and about climbing helping people. And so a lot of climbers reach out and they're like, "Oh, I want to start this at my gym. What do I do?"
My mind is blown with how, I mean, it happens over and over again in these episodes too. People sharing stories about how they had a vision of something happening and then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And so kudos to you big time and for leading this charge to expand it and to continue to expand it. And the amount of people you're helping is just phenomenal.
Thank you. It's really fun. It's people always ask. I just had a conversation with somebody the other day, and he said, "Why are you so passionate about this?" And I was like, "I mean, he's a volunteer," and I was like, "Aren't you passionate about volunteering?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, I guess so. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't." And I'm like, "Exactly, same thing."
Yes, it's just about finding that match for people, right? Of what the volunteer project, so to speak, is that really lights them up, indeed, or to create a whole business around it like you have. And you mentioned CBS Sunday Morning. There was a quote I wrote down when I watched the segment, and I wanted to ask you about it. It was a daughter talking about her dad, and her dad's a climber, and he got diagnosed fairly early. He was a cardiologist of some sort, and she said, "My dad has a hard time walking across the room, but he can make it to the top of this wall." So my big question is, how? I know they talked a little bit in the segment about it, but share with us, how is it possible that people can climb this whole wall but struggle to walk across a room?
Yeah, that's a good question that I don't think we have the exact answer for. I know with Parkinson's, that particular person, John, so that was our first climber.
Oh, that was
He
that John. Okay,
That
got
was
it.
that John.
Excellent.
Yep. Yep. So he is able to ski and ski really well. And it was something he could do before. And I think that's pretty common in Parkinson's. So it's like a different part of your brain gets activated when you're like doing those sort of activities. But I'm not sure if that's connected to something you had learned previously, kind of like an Ingram. So like it's something your body just knows what to do. Whereas these people are learning a new sport. So I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I will say you're tied into a rope, and I think that helps a lot with the confidence. So if you were to fall, you don't fall far, you just fall onto the rope. So it's not there. It kind of takes out that danger of falling when you're walking. Um, and so John, his daughter mentioned that he can walk, but he probably will fall when he
Yeah.
walks. And so on the wall, it's like if you fall, you just fall into air. But it uses your whole body. So it's not just your legs or just your arms. It's all of it, your legs and your arms together, along with your core and your back and your toes and your feet. And so you're really able to. It's a very adaptive sport, which is why we do a lot of adaptive climbing groups, not just for Parkinson's, for other people, because you can be missing a leg and still climb, and you can have um any sort of thing that's not quite working right, and then you can still climb.
Wow. And like you said, in that exercise prescription for Parkinson's, climbing hits all those touch points in one workout, which is fantastic, and a workout with community, which again, studies show the more community and the more you feel that welcoming to work out, the more progress and the more benefit for sure.
Yes, exactly. And as you know, you're like a fitness enthusiast, so you would know that the best exercise is one you're going to stick with, obviously.
Yes.
So there's that on top of it. It's like you're not just sitting on a stationary bike by yourself. It's fun, it's engaging. You got friends there who motivate you. So there's all that too.
Absolutely. I know what's most surprising to you about where you are right now in life with this organization and just all you've done and are doing.
So what's most surprising about it is, I mean, that's really hard to pick one thing. I'm surprised by everything. I never thought it would be as big as it is, or I just had a hard time visualizing it. Like I wanted it to be this big, and I knew it could be, but I didn't know how. I don't have like a business degree, and everything I'm doing, it's like I'm just doing it. People are like, "Oh, I don't know how to do a website." I'm like, "Well, you can teach yourself. Like, trust me, if I can, you can." And so I think it's been shocking that it's working so well and doing well. We also did a research study last year that got published a couple months ago, and I think that is surprising to me to see my name as a researcher. you know, that's
Molly, you're such an amazing example of you have the idea, you see the need, and you just kept stepping forward. You didn't always know. It sounds like you didn't always know what was next. You just kept stepping forward and embracing it and taking it on. And it sounds like you've surrounded yourself with a lot of great people who I'm sure are helping where is needed. And it's amazing all you've accomplished. This is amazing. So fantastic.
Thank you. Yes, everybody else has helped so much. I always say to people who want to do something, I'm like, just keep making moves and tell everybody, because somebody
Mhm.
you tell will know something and be able to help you. And that's how, like, I'm just like, if I want something, I'm like, oh, now I want to do research. I'm just going to start telling everybody that. And somebody will say, oh, I know somebody.
That's
Um,
excellent advice. You're so true. I'm working on a project right now too, where I was like, I think I just need to put this out there into the world because I need help in, fill in the blank aspect. And that is how we do it. So excellent advice and so needed. And I need to remember that too, for sure. Well, Molly, where can everyone find you online if they want to volunteer or donate, or they have Parkinson's themselves and are looking for a gym to be a part of?
Yeah, our website's upendingparkinsons.org. My email is molly@upendingparkinsons.org. And the website is, I mean, I think it's pretty good now. We have a location tab. And so you can see kind of all the locations there, and I add them as they're coming along. So like I said, we're adding about one a week. And there's a drop down on each location. So there's contact, sign up, registration information, and that sort of stuff on there. And there's also links in there for just, reaching out if you want to volunteer, or if you want to sponsor, or if you want to participate and whatnot.
Excellent. Molly, it's so cool learning about all of this. And thank you for what you're doing. You're helping so many people. And do listeners look up the website, and I'll link to that in the show notes. There's so much there. There's some really great visuals as well. And of course, prior clips from TV appearances. Just a lot to learn and to take in. And I'm in awe.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You bet. And if you are listening and this resonated with you, leave a comment, send me an email, send Molly an email, or share in any way. And thanks again. And thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this helpful, a 5-star review, like, or comment means the world to me. And if you found insight in this episode, chances are someone else will too. Share with a friend to give them a boost today. Until next time, I'm Kate Cherichelatente, and this was Be the Good with Kate.